Mr. Michael Kaplan. How good to be on the line with you again.
Oh, it's fantastic to see you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I love your background. For people that are just listening to the podcast, you can see this as a YouTube video. And Michael has, where are you, on your patio?
Yeah, I've got crappy lighting, but we got a great deck, so I always sit over here
Nice.
and get a beautiful background. But just know the birds are chirping, the jackhammers are going in the background where everyone's kind of doing home construction this fall.
Well, for this crowd, that's just going to sound like home. That's going to sound very good.
Perfect.
A lot of the people here do decks and fences and windows and additions and everything I see in the background there. And they're just dreaming of using that barbecue I see over your left shoulder.
There you go. Well, we're going to be talking recruiting, and that's my number one tactic, buy a Weber.
Is it?
It really is. It's when people ask for business advice, I always tell them, get a grill, use it often.
Yeah. Well, let's get to that. But before we do, who the heck are you? And how do you come to be speaking to this worldwide group of forward-facing business owners in the construction trades? Because they haven't met you like I have.
Well, I would say I'm here largely by accident. I don't know why, but I ended up buying a carpet cleaning company, and in 2006 started doing a turnaround with a carpet business in Minnesota. I had 2 employees, 3 trucks, and a whole heap of problems.
Oh.
And through making all the mistakes possible, we end up stumbling upon some of the right things to do. Going into the '08 recession, and the world collapses as we start blowing up. We got some good press. We had worked aggressively to revamp the technology we were using. The trucks were all wrong. The systems were all off. And we didn't have most of the problems figured out, but we had a handful of them going the right direction. We got this good press. And, it was a green cleaning company, didn't use all the soaps and surfactants that most carpet cleaners used. And the market responded really positively. We thought, we get a little PR in the newspaper. We thought, we'll get a couple calls. We had 7 phone lines lit up for about 7 weeks straight.
Just based on what? How did you get that kind of response?
Well, you begged for it, right? So I beat up a guy named Dick Youngblood, beat him into submission by calling him and saying, "Hey, profile me. And before you know it, he profiled me and my business partners and talked about our green cleaning company. And people were interested. So phones are ringing like crazy. We're literally at that time we had we weren't web based. We had one desktop that could schedule for whatever calls were coming in. And we've got, hundreds of people calling a week now. And so there's a line 5 deep for people to type in on the computer, what the job details were and figure out the schedule. It was a cluster, but
crazy times. And isn't it funny that even though the economy is completely different right now, getting business right now has never been easier for people in the construction and contracting trades. And you guys are largely in the contracting trades. Like you're still hiring the same kind of people we typically hire. You're still
absolutely.
You've got fleets of trucks, you've got moving machinery and equipment, you've got customers to take care of. Some of your jobs are smaller because you're in and out of the project. How long did it take to do a job for you guys?
It's typically a couple hours.
Okay. So you're on site for a bit and then gone.
Yeah. So very different execution of service, but same customer. So we started 3 trucks, 2 employees in '06. Business doubled, and then it grew just a little bit in '08, and then doubled. So from 320 when we bought it, 750. Million to 2.5 million, 5 million, 8 million, 11 million in consecutive years.
Wow.
So I think the reason I'm here talking to you is because you create all kinds of problems when you go from 2 million to 11 million in a handful of years, because every system you have is broken by the time you double, and then you have to reinvent it again and reinvent it again. So
that's a great observation. The problems don't go away.
They just shift.
They just shift. They just change. We're always fixing different problems. Since we're talking about recruiting, can I ask you this? This might be a strange question, but the reason I'm asking it is I want the listeners to understand your perspective on this. Those first 2 employees you had, were they with you when you got to 11 million?
Lord, no. Lord, no.
Those first 2 employees you had, would you ever hire them again?
Absolutely.
Oh, good. Interesting. So they were the right kind of people.
We inherited them. Absolutely. We inherited them. Can you still hear me?
I can. Yeah, breaking up a bit, but you're fine.
Oh, okay. Let me know. I can always find a different internet connection or something.
Sure.
So they were the right guys, but they signed up for a very different job than the job that was being asked of people when we were in hypergrowth. And the people who were there for hypergrowth were doing a very different job than the people when we stabilized and we're doing 18 million. So, it's a different mentality. People needed to be very excitable about the mission, and the mission shifted from, all right, let's do triage and figure out how to put out the dumpster fire, to, all right, we've got a model. We understand how to grow, and let's hold on to our horses and run like hell.
Well, do you mind if I ask you to hold on to your horses for a second? So we're talking about a carpet cleaning company. What kind of mission? This is all facetious on my part. I'm being a smart aleck here, right? You know that. You already know that, right? Why, when we're talking about recruiting, are you talking about understanding the mission? Where does that link together?
So one could easily say, who cares about textiles, right? I never cared about textiles. I didn't, my friends, everyone I knew, my parents and friends and business associates and law school classmates, everyone said, you're insane. Like carpet, like you're gonna be a rug sucker. And they still call me a rug sucker, which is fantastic. But nobody cares about it. But at the end of the day, you end up being in the people business, and understanding how to motivate and lead really requires that you're mission driven, whether you're in a literal mission with a church, whether you're in the trades or you run a frozen banana stand, doesn't matter. So what we did, not day one, but what we evolved to do was to come up with a strong set of values that really didn't describe who we wanted to be, described who we were. Aspirational values can be really dangerous because, say you're an accounting firm and you're boring, and, no offense to the accountants that listen to your podcast, but, you show up in a suit and tie, you do your work and you go home. Accountants with personalities.
Gray people in gray suits doing gray work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. If they had a mission on, or a core value on the wall that said, work hard, play hard, it's bullshit. Excuse the language, but it doesn't describe the culture. So it's disingenuous, and it creates a rift. It makes it really hard to create culture and buy-in. And you can't spell culture without the word cult. And so what you're really trying to achieve is getting people thinking along the same lines. Think of a fraternity. Everyone's, behind the same set of values, behind the same motivations. They're trying to get the same sort of stuff out of their alignment with the fraternity. Same thing in a business where when you can have values that are true to the business. So we had things like commitment to wow, team is family, live deliberately. And so imagine we're doing $8 or $10 million. I'm in front of 6 new hires, and I'm giving the core values speech. I say, listen, thank you all for being here. Hope you enjoyed the pizza and are learning a thing or two. I would love for you all to be here for the next 30 years, but I'm not insane. I understand that many of you may think of this as a job. Many of you may transition over time, and we look forward to helping you move on to that next stage. And some of you hopefully will be here. But what I hope for all of you is that while you are here, we can be part of your story, and you can achieve your goals and leverage your time here, so that if whatever you want to be, wake up and work toward that every day. Put a little Post-it note on your mirror and have it say, wake up and be the man I want to be, or be the woman I want to be.
Yeah.
And run toward that. So if you want to be a salesperson for Medtronic, well, you're cleaning carpet today. Okay. How are we going to get there? Well, you're talking to people every day. You're building a sales skill set. You're breaking down barriers. You're building a resume. You're earning money so you can take classes. If you want to play classical guitar and be in a band, whatever, you're buying freedom by earning these dollars. You're learning how to sell yourself to get stage time and things like that. Utilize the opportunity, and that will be huge at furthering yourself, even though you're doing it through a carpet cleaning.
Yeah. I like the way you're pretty open and blunt about, hey, this is where you are today, and we expect and understand you might be in a different place. But I'd also like the audience to understand, I don't think you found magic people. Like, these aren't, not that they're not special people, but you hired from the same pot of people that everybody else hires from. Can you take a second and just paint a picture who a classic applicant is for working at your company, driving a truck and cleaning carpets?
Yeah. So think back to 08, 09 when the world collapsed, and you've got mortgage brokers and lawyers and doctors who are unemployed. We started out by hiring them because we thought, white collar, oh my goodness, they're gonna be able to be great with our customers. What we didn't realize is they hated every moment of it because they felt like the work was beneath them. What we realized very quickly, although painfully, was that we needed to define the box. What is the box that we're asking people to live in? Yeah. And then we needed to find people that were comfortable and excited about living in that box. So they had to be excited about working with their hands and lifting things. And carpet cleaning's different than construction, but you're still working up a sweat. You're lifting things, you're moving couches, and you're doing it at a rapid pace with an attention to detail. And so, some people were great with the gift of gab and able to communicate and sell the heck out of things by transferring benefits and enthusiasm and getting people excited about, cleaning that other room or cleaning the couch or doing the air duct. And some people were just worker bees and just wanted to show up and take what was on the ticket and, clean. Yeah. But figuring out the different personality profiles and aptitudes and willingness to live in that box was really key for us.
That's so interesting. So eventually you had your aspirational employees, these lawyers and accountants and doctors who were suddenly unemployed. And you thought that they would be great in front of customers. But you soon came to realize the reality that your perfect employee, just like we have to define our perfect customer as well, but your perfect employee looked a certain way.
It's funny you say that about the perfect customer. I look at every business as having two customers, the one that pays you and the one you pay. And that mindset shift will change a whole lot in the hiring process and the retention process, because if you treat an employee just as a team member or as someone who works for you, it's a very different mentality than if you treat them as a customer. Well, and I think they really are a customer. And when you think about that, how can you attract the customer and how can you retain the customer and how can you avoid the wrong customer? Those three are gold.
So I like this definition that you created here, and I'm hoping that people have a chance to write notes if they can. But I think most people are driving or walking their dog while they're listening to this. But you outlined two kinds of customers: the one who pays me and the one I pay. So my other customer is my employee, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. And when you take that mindset, you think about things totally differently. Think about the journey a customer that pays you, your client. What is their journey like to actually become a customer? They don't just call you up and say, "Oh, great, I'm going to hire you." They're going to get other quotes. They're going to visit your website. They're going to have you break things down and understand what the experience is going to be like. And what do we do for our employees? Oftentimes we just say, "Hey, I've got a great job for you, and it pays big bucks." Well, that's all steak and no sex appeal. Like you've got to, you've got to have no sizzle. That's it.
There you go.
Much better.
And no, it's okay. I got the visual. Don't get me wrong. I still understood your point.
So you've got to have the sizzle, the presentation, and that journey is very important. So think about how you the language you use in your online ad. It's got to reek of culture. and
Right.
reek of enthusiasm, and make them think, you know what, I could
I
be
could do
around those
this.
people. So our ads, when trying to hire carpet cleaning customers, where do you post? You post on Craigslist and Indeed. They weren't technical and, well, you got to lift 50 pounds and you're going to be dealing with urine and feces and angry customers. It was about culture, and it was playful and good banter and wit and charm to get them in the door. And then when you get them in the door, what does your place look like? Who are they meeting? What's their first impression?
Right.
Are you giving them coffee and donuts, or are they sitting there waiting for you to be available, or are you attentive to them as if they were about to be one of your customers?
Yeah. So I want to break from this great definition you've just done, and I want to pull people back who might be thinking, well, hang on a sec, Rubino. This is a great guest who's got a great story, but I don't have a waiting room. We don't have a training class. I run a roofing crew out of a pickup, a crew cab. And I want to remind those people who are saying that you have a different situation, a different business, that Michael's still talking about the same thing. When a guy shows up to your work site, are you welcoming him or her? Are you telling them the job expectations, the rules? Are you handing them the orange t-shirt that everybody on the crew wears if you've got a uniform? And we could probably talk about the importance of uniforms. I imagine you guys were big on having a look, a brand. But it doesn't matter what your physical situation is. Please listen to what Michael's saying and apply it to your situation with the question, how can I? Not that won't work for me, or that doesn't make sense. Instead, challenge yourself. This is a coaching question or coaching challenge. How can I do what Michael did? And how can I apply that? Even if I do roofing or gutters or concrete placing or mason, doesn't matter. Cabinets. Yeah. How can I do that with the way our company runs?
Well, we were talking about the Weber behind me, and the advice that I give to all new entrepreneurs is buy a grill, use it often. And one of the tactics we would use for hiring is, your best hires are going to be your referrals, because they're going to fit in the box, because someone who already fits in the box and is good cultural fit for your business is saying, my buddy would fit in this box with me. So they've already broken down a lot of the barriers. They're probably a good fit. Get the grill going on a Thursday and tell your buddies or your employees to invite their buddies. I mean, and so it's kind of of course we're hiring, but it's subtle. You're engaging them in the culture. You're eating burgers and drinking beers, and they don't know they're there for a job interview.
Yeah.
You don't have an application with you, but you're selling, always be selling, right? And you're selling the culture. And part of it is overt, and part of it is, undertones of showing them what a great place to work it is.
Yeah. It's interesting that you do that, and you're in Minnesota. I've got a client in the Pacific Northwest, and they do rope access window cleaning. So when you look up at a skyscraper that's 50s, the guys that are hanging off that in a bosun's chair, but they use the barbecue as well.
Absolutely.
Because mountain climbers hang out with mountain climbers, and rope guys are rope guys. And so they try to build that community, and they'll even do outings to do bouldering and things like that, just to get people invited and people in on that, in that conversation. And that's where they hire people from.
Yeah. It's tough to get the Weber up on the roof of the skyscraper, but
I think these guys
it can be done.
Well, they probably do it on the ground, where it's safe. But you're right. And just really quickly, interesting you say on a Thursday. Did you say Thursday on purpose? Because my mind is going to another place, but why would you say do it on a Thursday?
I guess because we did it on Thursdays. It wasn't always Thursday, but Thursday's a great day because you're not stealing family time in the same way. It's a launch toward the weekend. It just, it builds up enthusiasm. Okay. I don't know if
I thought it was going to be to stop it from being a booze fest where somebody says, well, let's crack a beer. And then it just turns into it's the wrong environment. You're creating the wrong situation is where I thought it was going.
I look at alcohol as social lube. I think it's fantastic when used appropriately. But you obviously don't want people finishing a 12 pack at your company party. There's liability, but having a couple of beers and being able to let loose and bring their family and have the kids mingle and play, bags or whatever. It's huge. And then inevitably, folks, when you make it an open invite and you encourage them to bring friends, if they like the environment, they're going to bring friends, and then you can try and hook them a little bit.
Okay, get them in. Well, it's, the way that I look at a very similar way to you that you do it is I like to think about their kitchen table. When I hire people, I want them to go home to their kitchen table and say, I want them to say to their wife, or their wife to say to them, honey, it's about time you got a job. You just like, this is finally the job you've been looking for. This is the crew, the culture, it's everything. And that kitchen table is so powerful. And I think we forget about that. But let's change gears a little bit here, because right now in this economy, an ungodly amount of work is available. The challenge is not in selling work. The challenge is in finding people to deliver that work. So what would you do if you're running a crew right now and you had to get out there and start building a team? Where would you find these magic people?
Well, I would start with the low hanging fruit. I would look at referrals from the people I like working with. So the employees, the friends of the business, the vendors of the business, and the customers of the business. Indeed, Craigslist, places like that, Monster, those are obvious places as well. I don't think that there is a lack of people living in those environments. I think people are having trouble standing out. And then when they do stand out, they're having trouble knowing what the heck to do with them. But go ahead.
No. I'm just thinking ahead. One of the, you've made some very interesting referrals to me from other people who were on your team. And I don't want to take away from one of the other Michaels who's going to talk, but he was talking about Craigslist is a wave. When you're posting ads on Craigslist, posting it once a day isn't enough. You've got to post 3 or 4 times a day because people just look at the top posts.
So at the end of the day, you really have to think about this in terms of customer acquisition, right? And if you don't have enough jobs, you're going to go out and you're going to fight till you're bloody to get more jobs, right?
Yep.
You're obsessing about it. You've got the entire team thinking about it and resourcing their networks. And you've got KPIs, key performance indicators, and metrics that you're tracking. You've got the big thermometer on the wall.
The bell you ring when you make a sale,
right?
Yeah.
And and I always think about it in terms of the movie Rudy. And it's a corny analogy, but I don't know if you've seen the movie Rudy recently, but it's a fantastic movie where Rudy Rudiger wants to play for Notre Dame. He's undersized. He's got no business getting on the field, but he fights until he's bloody for years. Like he goes to community college. He lives in the janitor's closet. Like he takes odd jobs and gets a tutor so he can get the grades, so he can be a walk-on, so he can play like one snap for Notre Dame, and he gets there, right?
Nice.
He leaves it all on the field. And so I used to say to employees, they would have a problem or a challenge or, oh, boss, I didn't get it done. And I'd say, well, did you Rudy it? And they would all know what I meant. And I say that about hiring. Did you really Rudy it? Or did you go through the motions? Do you have clear, SMART goals? What's the acronym? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound.
Well done. Well done. Very well done. Yes.
I rarely get it right, but
you're in front of a business coach, man. I was ready to just give you a soft reminder. Yeah.
So if you don't have SMART goals, if you say I want to hire a bunch of people, well, that's a lazy goal, right? It doesn't have specificity to be able to know if you really achieved it. If you hire 3 people, did you achieve your goal? Your team can't rally around that. But if everyone is focused on, and you really break it down in terms of like, I created a project around hiring 4 people. That's what success is. I know when I'm going to do it by, I know how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I've assigned tactics and I really Rudy it and the whole team pushes toward it. And I make it less about pay and more about fit. You can get there because, when you look at, the people that I was hiring, I mean, I assume it transfers, but we were hiring millennials, and there's nothing wrong with millennials. Well, there's lots wrong with millennials.
But people have been saying, people said that about hippies in the 70s. You're always going to blame some other generation. So let's get over that.
Yeah. But millennials as a group, I can't speak for all of them, but I will tell you that pay is a bar that needs to be overcome. It's a hurdle. but it is not the be all end all. It's probably not in the top 5 motivators. You think about flexibility, you think about doing work that's important, you think about having a voice, and probably a couple other things. Then pay comes in. If pay is too low, it's, they're not going to take the job. But just saying, hey, we pay a ton, you could pay $80 an hour to shovel shit, but
the guy's going to take a job for one day thinking I need to make, $300 quick.
Yeah. So it, at the end of the day, finding ways to highlight the other elements of the job. I've got a great culture. You're going to do work that's meaningful. And what's meaningful behind carpet cleaning? Well, we talked a little bit about that. There's more to that story. Like
there's health benefits. I've read up on your site, the benefits.
Providing for the family. You've got community involvement, ways that the company gives back, projects they're involved in, doing work that's interesting. All these things, those are what people are excited about. That and the enthusiasm of the people they're going to be working with. Are you sitting there saying, God, I'm desperate, please come work for me? Or, here are the technical details of the job? Or is it, we're setting up for a barbecue tomorrow, and we've got this community event going on over here, and you should meet Rick. He runs our phone room, and here's why he loves his job. Sell them. And it can't just be about pay.
When I'm listening to you talk, we haven't talked much at all about the actual technical part of the job, which I don't mean to offend you, but is irrelevant. You're talking about leading people and building a team.
Yeah.
Which is the same if we're putting crushed gravel around drain tile on a home, or we're putting a roof at the top of it. It doesn't matter. We're building a team. And that team element really is important. It's why people join a team. It's why people stay, but it's also why they leave. For people listening who have a retention problem, the problem probably comes back to the fact that you haven't built a team environment. So maybe, Michael, I'll do this as just an open discussion question. What if you've got an owner who's listening here who's not an outgoing public speaking presenter type of person, is like, I kind of don't want to talk like that. How would they go about building a team if they don't want to be the person that stands up and waves the culture flag all day?
Deputize someone who does. I mean, at my business, I had a couple of partners, and when I left, it was down to me and another partner. And he used to say, his joke was that his kids tell him he's where fun goes to die. He was not on the fun. Yeah.
So he's the accountant you were talking about. Yeah.
In the right situation, he's very gregarious and boisterous,
of course,
lots of fun. But he was not on the fun committee. But guess what? We had a fun committee, and I was on it. And we had people who were part of, they had the biggest pom-poms, and they had a budget to figure out, should we go to a Twins game, or should we go mini golfing, or whirly ball, or just do a barbecue?
Yeah.
They had the opportunity to figure out how to engage the team, and they were part of the hiring committee, and we found gregarious people who were excitable and did represent the broader culture to be the face of the company for those hiring events.
I had a client once who, now they're in the deep South, so this will make sense to people in the South, but when they hit a certain number, like when they were doing well on a job, the owner would bring them Coke. But if they weren't doing well on a job, he'd bring them Pepsi. Because it's a very Coke versus Pepsi culture, but at lunchtime, it would either be Coke or Pepsi. But they'd be drinking that Pepsi going, like, I'm getting a free Pepsi, but this is not actually a prize. But what's the cost of, let's say, a dozen cold Pepsis or a dozen cold Cokes?
It's minimal, but what is the value? What is the value?
Yeah. It's irrelevant, right? It's nothing. It's pennies, literally. But your guys are holding a Pepsi, drinking it, going, "Oh, okay, the boss brought us Pepsi every second Thursday." So he did it alternating paydays, right? So if your paydays are every second Friday, then he would do it on the week in the middle. But you're drinking a Pepsi, you're still getting a soda, but you're not getting a Coke.
Yeah. Right? No, that's a subtle but very present message.
Yeah, isn't it good? So, and there's lots of things you can do with that to build culture. And so for people listening who are saying, listen, I'm not a big public speaker. I don't want to be fun. Fun's not part of our culture. It's not what we do. We do good work. We're solid, put our heads down. Be that culture. Be that culture, but also recognize that culture with your people and build a team of people around you who are similar, who are also heads down, quiet, hard workers, focused on quality, but have that conversation.
So when we could get guys engaged and excitable about the job, we would send them on a ride along before they were officially offered the job. So it would do two things. They would spend a morning or afternoon out on a job, learning what the work is like, and it would do two things. It would immunize them from the pain of the job, because parts of the job suck, and it's got crap associated with it, but there's nothing worse than hiring someone, having them spend 3 weeks adding no value to your business, learning on your dime, and then firing you. So it would immunize them so they'd know, okay, I could see myself doing
They're
this
clear
work.
in the expectations, what the job's about. Yeah.
Yep. And second, the person doing the ride along with them, they're the gregarious, outgoing person who's going to help sell them on that job and help them understand the culture and fit in and feel like, hey, this is a place you really want to be. They've got big pom poms. So you do double duty in that regard.
You just reminded me. I never had those two things when I was sent to strip forms or knocking the pins off concrete in an underground garage. You're just sent down, like being sent into an underground garage to knock the pins off, from the forms in the concrete. You're just down in a cave all day, swinging a stick to knock the setting pins in place. And you're thinking to yourself, I should really go back to school. Why am I here? And then when you're stripping forms, you're in mud and water that has who knows what in it, really, on a construction site. And you're just picking up clamps and clips and brackets. And it's all I was thinking is, I should probably get back to school. So maybe what would have helped, and I still kept the job because that's just part of the job of stripping forms, is, hey, listen, this is what you're going to do today. If you got any questions, talk to Abe. Abe's going to walk you through it, blah, blah, blah. But however you're running your company, have somebody there who's a point person for them for their questions and keep them interested.
Well, and most people think about orientation as an event, like a one-time, okay, you're going to come in, you're going to read some paperwork, and then you've gone through orientation. I looked at orientation as a journey. It's a 2-month thing from the day that you make the person an offer until they're really part of the community. Because guess what? If they live 30 miles away, it's going to be hard for them to get up every day after their muscles are sore and they had a bad day and be motivated to come into work. So, a month and a half in, you've checked in with them all sorts of times. You pose the question, hey, have you considered moving closer? Do you need some help finding a place or a bridge loan, like to do a deposit or something, so that you can live closer to work? Because it seems like that might be meaningful to you and your family. Or think about their performance metrics, checking in with them, not quarterly, like you would for maybe an employee review, but with the frequency that says, hey, end of your first week, how are you feeling? You're running a little bit slower than the norm. Are there things I can help you with? Let's talk about this technique or tactic or whatever. Or your shoulder's hurting. Could we figure out a stretching routine? You're checking in on purposeful milestones. The first day of work, you've got someone greeting them at the door, saying, hey, it's or on the job site saying, hey, it's great that you're here, Rick. I'm gonna be your liaison and make sure that if you need anything, if you don't know where the bathroom is or something's going on, let me know. I'm your guy. As opposed to just showing up on the job site and scratching your head and your butt saying, I don't know where to go. Like, so they're a customer, right? You have to.
I was just going to say that.
You have to curate the relationship.
Yeah, you can't see the notes that I'm writing here, but from what you just said there, I wrote down my observation is be intentional about people. And then I drew a line right back to my notes here that says, I have 2 customers, the one who pays me and the one I pay. And what I hear from you, or what I'm picking up, is you really think of that person, that employee, as a customer. Because did you guys ever, I know you did without even having you answer the question, what was a guy worth to you? What was the productivity per person?
Oh, a great performer on a truck could bring in, $30,000 a month.
Okay, so $1,000 a day.
Yeah.
Assuming they worked 30 days in a month, but yeah, so there you go, 30 grand a month.
I mean, we tended to give a day off or two once in a while.
but it doesn't matter what the number is. If it's a $600 a day or $1,000, whatever your number is, audience, that's what that person is worth. They're here and they have a value they need to bring back to the business. So that's a customer. It's such an interesting way to look at that. Where did you pick up that little tidbit, or that mind shift? Just made it up?
I really couldn't say. I am a big fan of Tony Hsieh. He recently passed away, but he was the founder of Zappos, which was bought by Amazon. And he wrote a book called Delivering Happiness. And it's more focused on, less focused on the internal customer than the external, more focused on
the employee,
how less on the employee and more on how they worked with their vendors and how he built the business to be customer centric. But a lot of the thinking that I whether it's not that dichotomy between internal and external customer, but between Raving Fans and Delivering Happiness, those are two books that have absolutely inspired and formed my kind of trajectory in business.
Jeez, there's so much we could talk about, Michael. You're just a wealth of info. I'm so impressed. And I don't think you expected to be, to have an $18 million story when you bought a company with 2 guys and 3 trucks.
That was not the intention. So my goal was to get into business turnarounds. And I thought, all right, we'll buy a business. We'll see what happens. I'll spend 3 years. We'll grow it a little bit. We'll stabilize it. Maybe we're doing $1 million. I'll go out and do the next thing. And there was too much opportunity internally for me to leave. So I stuck with it for about 12 years and sold in 2018. So now I have the business that does business turnarounds, finds broken, dysfunctional, underperforming assets and revitalizes them, as well as investing in businesses that are more of a burden than an asset to the owner.
Yeah.
And then we also buy businesses outright and source capital, leadership, and strategy to kind of mush them together and take it on a new path.
You just now became even more interesting to some people listening. If Michael, if somebody wants to find you in this wide world, how do we find Michael Kaplan?
Well, a couple of ways. I'll be brave and give my email address. It's Michael C, as in Charlie, Michael C6 at gmail.com. You can check out our business at redhookinvestments.com. Investments is plural, and we're actually not Red Hook Investments, but we're too busy or too lazy to set up the Booyah Capital Partners website. But so we had Red Hook Investments and kind of rebranded to Booyah Capital Partners. But it's got stuff about our workshops where business owners get together for a very serious meeting called Business Bourbon and Bullshit. It's a quarterly. Sometimes the bourbon comes first, but we do quarterly workshops. That's a collaboration where we work on goal setting and do some strategy and bring business owners together, because more often than not, business owners tune into a podcast or something because they're a solopreneur. Life's hard and cold, and they don't have people. You can't talk to your worker in the trenches about your finance problems, or
there's nobody to talk to.
Yeah, so this brings business owners together in a really cool way, and we also put on other live events and trainings and stuff like that. So,
well, you'll have to have me as a speaker one day or as a guest or something.
Anything
I can do to help, I'm happy to return the favor.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah. Well, Michael, thank you very much. I really appreciate having you here as a guest. Lots of insight on the recruiting side. We actually cast a very wide net, but I'm also very happy because I'm the guy who beats the drum of culture. And I know that people listen to me and think, this guy's talking about Lucky Charms and rainbows. and unicorn poop, and it's not the world. And I'm going to come back and tell you, I'm not saying it. Michael's saying it, and he took his business to 18 million and sold it, and now he's doing this interview from his patio.
Well,
so who's got it right?
I don't have a cigar lit right now, but I typically do. I thought I'd professionalize with my plaid cap and whatever.
Oh, you're all good. Yeah, you're all good. Hey, Michael, thanks for being on the show. We appreciate it.
It's been a ton of fun. Thanks so much.
Have a great day.